Good afternoon. Welcome. I'm Michelle, and we are in John, doing a Bible study in John by Dr. David Jeremiah. What would you say we get going? We are in chapter 11, verses 1 through 57. A premature burial. Getting started. What is something that Jesus has done in your life that others cannot deny or refute? Something to think about. Setting the stage. The Gospels of John is structured around 7 key miracles of Christ. The first is Jesus turning water to wine, chapter 2, 1 through 12, followed by the healing of the nobleman's son, chapter 4, verses 46 through 54. The healing of the paralytic at the pool is chapter 5, 1 through 15. The feeding of the 5,000 is chapter 6, 1 through 14. Jesus walking on water was chapter 6, 15 through 21, and healing the man born blind is chapter 9, verses 1 through 12. The seventh miracle, the rising of Lazarus from the dead, is the climactic miracle of the Gospels. It is agreeably the most important miracle recorded in the New Testament apart from Jesus' resurrection. The events of the story which are recorded in John 11 take place just before the beginning of the final week of Jesus' ministry. Good afternoon, Lisa. Welcome. The Jewish leaders have become increasingly worried about Jesus' influence on the people, and as a result had stepped up their efforts to put an end to his life. They were just waiting for the right opportunity to act. Jesus knew this, yet when he received word of Lazarus' illness, he said, "Let us go to Judea again." The rise of Lazarus is the longest recorded miracle in John's Gospel. There are 46 verses dedicated to its story. The detail is impressive. No key point is neglected. John paints a picture in its totality that allows us to see everything that is happening, even the events taking place, including the disciples' fear that Jesus will play right into the Jewish leaders' hands if he makes the journey back towards Jerusalem. As it turns out, their fears were justified. The miracle only served to increase the religious leaders' hostility towards Jesus, for he had done something that they could not refute. Many people had been present to witness Lazarus' death, and these same people later saw him walking around the street of Bethany. It is important for the religious leaders to try to refute and deny that Jesus was had true miracle working power. So after Lazarus was raised from the dead, they redoubled their efforts to put an end to Jesus' life. Exploring the text, the death of Lazarus, chapter 11, 1 through 16. Now a certain man was sick, Lazarus of Bethany, in the town of Mary and her sister Martha. It was the Mary who anointed the Lord with fragrant oil and wrapped his feet with her hair. His brother Lazarus was sick. Therefore the sisters sent to him, saying, "Lord, behold, whom you love is sick." Then Jesus heard this sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, and the Son of God may be glorified through it. Now Jesus loved Mary and her sister and Lazarus. Martha. It wasn't Mary, it was Martha. Now Jesus loved Martha, her sister, and Lazarus. So when he heard that he was sick, he stayed 2 more days in the place where he was. And then after that he said to his disciples, "Let us go to Judea again." His disciples said to him, "Rabbi, lately the Jews sought to stone you. Are you going there again?" He answered, Are there not 12 hours in a day? Anyone works in the day, but he does not stumble, because he sees the light of this world. But if he walks at night, he stumbles, because the light is not in him. These things he said. After that he said to them, "Our friend Lazarus sleeps, but I go there to may he wake him up." And his disciples said, "Lord, if he sleeps, he will get well." However, Jesus spoke of his death, but they thought that he was speaking about taking a rest and sleep. Then Jesus said to them plainly, Lazarus is dead, and I am glad for your sake that I was not there, that you may believe. Nevertheless, let us go to him. Then Thomas, who is called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, Let us also go, that we may die with him. Question number 1. Why didn't Jesus immediately go to Bethany to heal the beloved friend Lazarus? And Jesus delayed the verse? Why was the reason of Jesus' delay? Verses 1 through 6. Let's see. Because the sickness was not unto death, it was to glorify God. Lazarus, death, and his death and resurrection would give glory to God. The village of Bethany, this is question 2. The village of Bethany was less than 2 miles away from Jerusalem. What the disciples feared would happen if Jesus agreed to Mary and Martha's request. They're afraid that he would be arrested and killed. That Jesus would be killed. Okay. Jesus comforts Martha. John 11:17 through 29. So when Jesus came, he found that he had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles away, and many of the Jews had joined the women around Martha and Mary to comfort them concerning their brother. Then Martha, as soon as she had heard that Jesus was coming, went to meet him, but Mary sat in the house. Now Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give you. And Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Martha said to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection at the last days. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he may die, shall live. And whoever has lived and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? She says to him, Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who has come into the world. And when she said these things, she went her way and secretly called Mary, her sister, and said, The teacher has come and is calling for you. And as soon as she heard this, she arose quickly and came to him. Question number 3. According to rabbinic tradition, the soul of a person who dies hovered over the corpse for 3 days, then departed to the 4th day. What Mary believed that Jesus could do in spite of this obvious and overwhelming obstacle. Verses 20 and 22. She knew that whatever Jesus asked, Jesus asked God he would do. And that Jesus was the Christ, was the Messiah, was Christ. come from God. And Lazarus I can't spell his name. It just went blank. Let's see if I can find it in here. Doesn't have a number. There we go. We'll just play with it. Then that's it. And Lazarus would rise at the last days. Now, how did Martha misinterpret Jesus' words when he said that Lazarus would rise again? How did Jesus correct her understanding? Verses 23 through 26. Jesus said that your brother will rise again. And Martha said to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection of the last days. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection, I am the life. He who believes in me, though he may die, he shall live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. So what does that tell us? You die in Christ, you live. Jesus comes to the tomb of Lazarus. Chapter 11, verses 30 through 40. Now Jesus could not come into the town, but was in the place where Martha met him. When the Jews who were there, when she was in the house comforting her, when they saw that Mary rose up quickly and went out, followed her, saying, She goes to the tomb to weep there. Then when Mary came where Jesus was, she saw him, she fell down at his feet and said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Therefore, when Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who came with her weeping, he groaned in spirit and was troubled. And he said, Where have you laid him? They said to him, Lord, come and see. Jesus wept. That is the shortest verse, from what I understand, the shortest verse in the Bible, that Jesus wept. And it's something I sit here and just, I'm in awe about, that Jesus loved so much. Even when he was crucified, he wept for us. Then Jesus said, see how he loved him? And some of them said, Come, could this not be the man that opened the eyes of the blind, so have kept this man from dying? Then Jesus, again groaning to himself, came to the tomb, and it was a cave, and a stone laid across it. Jesus said, Take away this stone. Martha, the sister of him who was dead, said, Lord, by this time there is a stench, for he has been dead 4 days. Jesus said to her, Do you not say that you believe that? Did I not say to you that if you would believe, you would see the glory of God? Question number 5. What did Mary react when she saw Jesus? What similarities and differences were between her response and that of Martha? Martha went straight to him. Martha was more practical, I think, too. Martha went straight, questioned, and received answers, um, you know, that way. She was more, I'm trying to think of the right word. Let me write it out and see if it'll help. Martha was Martha was not as emotional at that time, at that moment. where when Mary was called, she threw herself at his feet. Question number 6. How did Jesus demonstrate in this passage that he could relate to the suffering that that we face in the world? He wept. He groaned in the spirit. Groaned in his spirit. And this is a he. Let me check this before I say it. I want to check and see if my it looks like that Jesus groaned in the spirit. He was so upset, but yet knew that he could go to his Father and with groanings, with the Spirit would let. He may not have had the words, but he knew the Spirit did. Okay. Jesus rises Lazarus from the dead. Chapter 11, 41 through 52. They took away the stone from the place where the dead man was lying. Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank you that you hear me. I know that you always hear me, but because of the people who are standing by, I say this, that they may believe that you sent me. Now when he said these things, he cried out in a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he who had been dead came out, bound head and foot with grave clothes, and his face was wrapped with a cloth. Jesus said to them, Loosen him and let him go. Then many of the Jews who come to Mary and had seen these things Jesus did believed in him. But some of them went away to the Pharisees and told them the things Jesus did. Then the chief priests and the Pharisees began to gathered a council and said, What shall we do? For the man works many miracles. If we let him alone like this, everyone will believe in him, and the Romans will come and take away both our place and nation. Then one of them, Caiaphas, being the high priest that year, said to them, You know nothing at all, nor do you consider that it is extended to us that one man should die for the people, and not that the whole nation should perish. Now this he did not say on his own authority, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus would die for the nation, and not for the nation only, also, but also that he would gather together in one of the children of God who were scattered abroad. Question number 7. What did Jesus do before calling Lazarus come out of the tomb, and what did he indicate was his reason for performing this miracle? He said that he knew whatever he asked God for, he would give. Good afternoon, Miss Cindy. Cindy, we're on question 7, so you're doing okay. Let's see. He was performing the miracle so that all. So let me look it up, make sure I'm wording this right. We're going to look at verses 41 and 42. You're cleaning off your desk and made your lunch. Then someone knocked on the door. Isn't that just the way it goes, Cindy? Let me check this again. 41 and 42. They took away the stone. He asked the Father to thank the Father that he heard him and that he always hears him. That because of the people standing by, I say this, that they may believe that you sent me. Lazarus, come forth. All would believe. Sent him. Come forth. What is the people's reaction to this miracle? Why was Jesus an especially vexing problem for the chief priests and Pharisees? People believed in Jesus. More people. People came to believe that Jesus was to believe in Jesus. In Jesus. They were afraid of what one would do if Jesus was not stopped. Reviewing the story. The disciples had seen Jesus perform many miracles during their time with him on earth. They had witnessed him raise a widow's son, Nain, and the daughter of a man named Jairus in Mark 5:21 through 24 and 34 through 43. But the Gospels record no instances of Jesus rising someone from the dead who had been dead 4 days. In spite of this, when Jesus met Martha outside of the village of Bethany, she confessed her belief that God would give Jesus whatever he asked. However, when Jesus said her brother would indeed rise again, she immediately assumed he was referring to Lazarus' resurrection at the last day. Jesus corrected this misunderstanding by demonstrating his power over death in the present. The rising of Lazarus stunned the Pharisees, who quickly accelerated their plans to put Jesus to death. Question number 9. Jesus knew that Lazarus had died before he and his disciples reached Bethany. Why did Jesus say he was glad he was not there to witness it? To show others that he is Christ. Question number 10. How did Martha respond when she learned that Jesus had finally arrived in Bethany? And how did she demonstrate she had complete faith in Christ? She ran out to meet him. She said that she knew. She knew that Lazarus would rise again. This is true, Cindy. Everything that Jesus did pointed back to God and for God's glory. This is very true. Very, very true. Question number 11. How did the people of how did the people of Bethany react when Jesus arrived? They were wondering why he had not come beforehand. Why he had not come before Lazarus died. Calpheus, the high priest, believed that it was better to kill Jesus than allow the entire nation continue to be deceived by him. In spite of the consequences, how does Jesus say these words provided to be more prophetic than Caiaphas imagined? That's going to be 49 and 52. 49 and 52. Well, that should die, not the whole nation should perish. But now this he did not say in his own authority. But being priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus would die for the nation. And not for the nation only, but also that he would gather together in one the children of God who were scattered abroad. Okay. Caiaphas prophesied Jesus' death what knowing that it would bring that would bring his believers to Jesus. Out the end times. Applying the message. Question 13. Now Jesus told Martha that he was the resurrection and the life. John 11:25. What do these means worry mean to you in your life? His resurrection is what? I don't know. His resurrection and blood gave us life. Question number 14. Now, Martha and Mary underestimated Jesus. What are some of the ways you have been guilty of the same? How can you avoid understate, underestimating what Jesus is capable of doing? Let me reread that because I stumbled through it. Martha and Mary underestimated Jesus. What were the ways you have been guilty of the same? How can you avoid underestimating what Jesus is capable of doing? How can we avoid doing that? Knowing that He is the way. Knowing He is the way for all things. I may not be wording it right, but I understand what I'm writing. Okay. Now, reflecting on the meaning. Now, Jesus approached Lazarus' tomb and said, "Take away the stone." Now, Martha's reply was telling. She said, "Lord, by this time there is a stench, for he has been dead 4 days." Martha didn't believe. She was struggling with her doubts. She did not fully understand the Lord's power or his timetable. Jesus explained that he could raise Lazarus from the dead, and Martha had offered a theological sound reason to his words. "I know that he will rise again in the resurrection at the last days." Now, Martha had an impressive knowledge of what the Lord would accomplish at some point in the future, but she had no expectation that her brother, who had been in the tomb for 4 days, was about to walk alive. Isn't it interesting that this godly woman who had Christ by her side, who was preoccupied with her brother's corpse, the Son of God had made himself available to her, yet she could only think about her problem. Granted, her problem was enormous, but the power by her side was even greater. When Christians share Martha's preoccupation, while Jesus does not physically stand by our sides, we have something better. We have His Holy Spirit dwelling within us. Like Martha, we have His power available to us, but often when problems come, like Martha, we allow them to fill our vision and block out everything there is to know about Christ. Instead of focusing on the enormity of His power and His love for us, we focus on the enormity of the problem before us. We see no apparent solution, no reason for hope, and we assume there is none. Yet, from Martha's experience of her brother's tomb teaches us anything, it is that Jesus is there. With Jesus, there is hope. Journaling your response. What practical problems tend to block your view of Jesus' mercy and power? I will leave y'all with that. We will be on lesson 7, Treacherous Times, John 12 and 13 next week. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it, and I will see y'all again next week. Bye now.